Eureka. So 3 months ago, I presented about Cursor here on the iOS Meetup. And today I'll be presenting about one of my pet projects, which is a companion app for Pokemon Go. And the keyboard extension is one of the core features of the app. So today I'll be talking about how to make keyboard extensions and some pitfalls and tips you might find useful. And I'll show a demo of the app. So creating the keyboard extension itself is very simple. So if you have an app, you just add a new target to your Xcode project. So you just choose the custom keyboard extension. So Xcode will generate a simple class for you. It's a subclass of UI input view controller, which is just a subclass of UI view controller. And from this controller, you can just add views or buttons just as normal. So if you look inside the UI input view controller header, you'll see a few properties relating to input UI text input, like the input view, but this is actually just the view controller's view, and the text document proxy, which is the middleman for the UI text view or whatever input view your keyboard is working on. Which leads us to our first pitfall. You actually can't get the instance of whatever that text field or text view is. But this is a good thing for security-wise, because you don't want keyboards grabbing your passwords from your clipboard. But because of this, you also can't get the text or its length. But there's a workaround that works most of the time, so let me explain. The UI text document proxy, you'll be able to get the document context before input and document context after input. I'll show what this means later on. You can also get the selected text. You can get the input mode. And you have a few methods like adjust text position, where you can move the cursor around the text field. And there are also methods for deleting a character or inserting text. So what do I mean when I say that, when I say that there is a workaround to get the text, the complete text works most of the time. So here we have a text field. Now the document context before input returns the text at the left of the cursor. So if the cursor is on the left side, the before input is nil and the after input is whatever is on the right side. If the cursor is on the right side, you'll get the whole text, and if the after input is nil. And if the cursor is in the middle, you'll get the left side is ABC here and the right side is DEF. So to get the complete text, we just append the two together, right? Right? Okay, so this is a special case. For example, put a question mark in the middle of the text. So as assumed, we can have the left side as ABC question mark and the right side as DEF. Here's where the fun starts. If you move the cursor before the question mark, the DEF disappears. So you can never get the text on the right of the question mark for some reason. So if you move the cursor to the right of the character after the question mark, the ABC part will never be, you can't get it anymore. So yeah, the pitfall is, you can get the complete text most of the time, but there are some characters like question mark and exclamation which have special treatment. So I don't know if this is a bug. You can say that this is probably how the text field is designed. You can take just the sentence and the punctuation separate the sentences, but this actually works properly in periods. So it's just question marks and exclamation marks that this happens. So I have reason to believe this is probably a bug. Okay, so anyway, we just move on. So let's create a button. For example, here we want to create a keyboard button. Let's say we want to type the letter A. So we create a button with the text A, and then create a button selector normally. We have a touch-up inside handler. So from using the text document proxy, we insert the text. So usually when you type a character, you want to play a sound, right? So to play a sound, you need to implement UI input view audio feedback. So you need to return true from this enable input clicks when visible property. So if you implement that, you can use the UI device current play input click method. If you don't implement this method, if you don't implement the audio feedback protocol, it won't play any sound, even if you play, even if you call the play input click. There's another pitfall here. To play clicking sounds, you need the full access. Your app needs to be granted full access by the user. And actually, some of the simple functions like reading, writing to user defaults, or accessing the clipboard needs those very broad permission. So to do this, you add to the info playlist requests open access and set it to yes. Now the scary part is to allow this full access, the user needs to toggle the switch from their settings app, and they're going to be presented with this scary dialogue saying, full access allows the developer of this keyboard to transmit anything you type, including things you have previously typed with this keyboard. This could include sensitive information such as your credit card number or street address. But we only want to play the clicking sound, right? Unfortunately, this is how users are made aware of how powerful developers can use this keyboard extensions. So the next pitfall, apps can actually reject custom keyboards. But this is understandable because, for example, if you're a banking app, you don't want clipboards, reading whatever PIN codes or whatever in the text fields. So apps can implement this using the UI application delegate. There's a should allow extension point identifier method where they can return false if it's a keyboard extension. Next, if you're making keyboard extensions, you should be careful about memory use because extensions are only allowed around 30 megabytes memory. So if you're using too many zip files or images in your keyboard extensions, your app will crash. And for the user, while they're typing, if your keyboard crashes, your keyboard will disappear, and then the default system keyboard will replace your keyboard. So some tips. First, debugging a keyboard in a specific locale will run any app in the locale. So there's actually no need to change the device language if you just want to view different languages. So you do this using the Xcode scheme. So from your keyboard extension, you go to your options, settings, and then just set the language you want. Now when you run your debugger on your keyboard extension, Xcode will list apps from your simulator or your device where you want the keyboard to execute. So Xcode will run that app instead. So it can be any app, not just your app, any app in the App Store. So Xcode will run that app, attach the debugger, and when you find a text field or some input view in that app, and your keyboard appears, you can start debugging. Now there's a very good, I wouldn't say good, but there's a trick here. You can actually read other App Store apps' console logs because they're going to be run using the Xcode debugger. So be careful of your apps wherever you're logging in your console. So the next tip, you are not restricted to a single character input. You can actually put words with one button click, one button tap. And if you've been using a keyboard, I'm sure you're using a Japanese keyboard sometimes. You use the globe icon to change the keyboards. You can have the similar functionality using just a single line. Yeah, this on iOS 5, you actually don't need that button, but on iPhone 8 and others, you need to implement that. So you just add this selector to your button and attach it to all touch events. So use the UI input view controller handle input mode list selector. I'll show this to you later on. Okay, tip number 4, you can check the allow full access status by messing around with a clipboard. So most keyboard developers, they use this variant of this method. So what you do is you just read anything from the clipboard. If you can read something from it, then you have access. Now if the user didn't copy anything, you just put something in and then read it. If you can't read it, then that means the user is didn't grant any access yet. So personally, I prefer assigning a color instead of text or images because it's less likely that a user is copy and pasting colors between apps. Yep, so I'll move on with the demo. Okay, so I mentioned that my app is a companion app for Pokemon Go. So I'll be playing Pokemon Go. I don't think anyone here is still playing. Are there still? Okay.
It's fun.
Yeah, hardcore players are actually hardcore payers. Okay, so one of the use cases for my app is if players catch a lot of Pokemon and they don't know, they all look alike, they don't know which Pokemon is which one has which moves. There's actually a bug in the game where you cannot move the cursor if you want to type the nickname. So this is my custom keyboard. See, I allowed to insert anywhere. So if I want to insert symbols here, I can insert anywhere from that text view. I don't know, I think this is a Unity bug, I don't know. You can't move the cursor. Okay, so this keyboard allows the user to insert symbols. You know, players like to put, like for example, this. They can, for example, this Pokemon have a dragon and flying attacks. Sorry, I'm talking nerd right now, but yeah, this keyboard shows symbols that can represent the types. For example, dragon using claw. Okay. Okay, so and here the user can hold on a key and then add it to his favorites. So if you add it to the favorites, it gets moved here. So what the keyboard does here is it saves that key to the user defaults, to the shared user defaults, which the app can also read. Okay, so I'll go to the app. Now the app itself, you can do the same features here. You can add and remove symbols. Here, you can add and remove. And this list is the exact same keys present in the keyboard. So the keyboard extension in the app communicates using the user default. Now, I'll show you what the app does and why people use this. So you take a screenshot of your Pokemon, and the app scans that screenshot and extracts all the stats. Now players, what they usually do is they encode those stats in the nickname. So here, my app allows you to tokenize those stats. So you can move around the attack, defense, and stamina, or whatever moves that they have. So you can move those around, and you can copy this nickname. And this is actually a paid feature in my app, and people subscribe to this every month. So they copy this and just paste it here. So I was saying a while ago, you're not restricted to a single character. You can actually paste whole sets of words. Yeah, so that's how my keyboard works. Yeah, and I'm not lying. Hardcore players are actually hardcore players. So see, just a feature that where they can easily encode their stats to the nickname. And people are willing to have this convenience for them.
Do they have the same attribute like IV, EV, nature? Is it the same as like the regular?
You're asking if Pokemon have the same
is it
from
like
the
the
original
same
games?
kind of stats?
They only have IVs, not EVs. So that's why people actually catch a lot of Pokemon, because they can't train the EVs.
Okay,
Sorry, we're geeking out again. We can talk later. So what I've learned from this app, there's a ton of untapped use cases in third-party apps. So not just your own app, you can look for other apps where users will benefit from instant encoding of something, maybe a to-do list, encoding of dates or something like that. So just think of them as plugins to that external app, and I'm sure you'll find a lot of ideas for keyboard extensions. And that's all for me today. Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay.
Okay, one and then two.
Okay.
Go first.
You mentioned the application. I don't know if I misunderstood, but application and keyboard could exchange information using user defaults.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean if I know keys in third-party app for the user default storage, I can access those in my keyboard?
Mm-hmm. You actually need to register a keyboard work group. It's a bundle ID, it's something like a bundle ID, where you need to register it in your entitlements file in your app. So it needs to be in your bundle already. Okay, I'll show you the code.
Is it app group or application group?
I'll show you the code. Okay.
Okay.
Let me see. Oh, this is the wrong app. So you need to declare an app group in your entitlements file. So here I specify to use this identifier. Now this identifier will be the ID that the user defaults will map into. So to use this,
So you're exchanging data between your application and your keyboard.
yeah. So you initialize the user defaults using a different initializer. not the default.
It's container for.
Yeah, you use the initializer which uses the sweet name
Okay.
argument. So you pass the entitlements ID, I mean the app group ID you set from your entitlements app.
What can you do if the user doesn't give you full access?
If you can't, if the user didn't give you full access, your keyboard and your app will have their own sandbox for the user default. So even if you use this initializer, they'll be getting their own sandbox user default. So they can't see each other's data.
But the keyboard cannot talk to the internet though, or can it?
The keyboard can access the internet actually.
Even without full access?
I think it needs full access for. I need to check, but yeah, I think it just makes sense. I need to check. Sorry.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
So I played like Pokemon Go like 2 3 months or so maybe on the
Nice.
first day, yeah. And I didn't know like encoding some weird string into the name. Is that like a very popular way?
Yeah, a lot of players actually use that because, like I showed you a while ago, if your Pokemon looks alike and their names are all the same, if you go into a gym and want to fight, you don't know which one is the one you raised up.
Do you have any like competitor app that
Yeah,
also
there's
has a
actually-
similar one? And is
there's
that your
actually a
own?
couple.
Is that your own format, or is it like common format for every? I don't know.
The format-
consensus.
The format is the user is actually free to set, like I showed a while ago. The user is free to, for example, the attack, defense, and stamina. They can use this Unicode or this Unicode or just use hex.
Oh, I see.
And they're free to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you mentioned that you use your example with the game,
Mhm.
whatever. You need some permission from the game maker? Is it totally independent? I've never used this keyboard extension,
I don't-
so I'm like
mhm.
ask it.
Keyboard extensions are, I mean, iOS supports keyboard extensions. I mean, it doesn't have to be my keyboard extension. It can be other keyboard extensions. And Apple already released this to developers. So any developers for keyboard extensions can make any keyboards they want for whatever apps the users want to use them for. So it's just a coincidence that my app is
So the
supporting.
user, the final user decides to use your extension with this app.
Mhm.
That's all.
No, they can type, use that keyword type.
Yeah, you can actually use it.
OS.
I see.
Yeah, I can use it for my own.
And when you publish it, you publish an extension?
I'm
How's
sorry.
the App Store? How do you do it?
The keyboard extension is bundled with the app. So if you submit your app and the keyboard extension is already in your, is in the same Xcode project, it will be bundled together with your app.
And then people can use this extension with some other if they want.
Yes, they just need to add it from the settings, the keyboard settings.
I see. So when you publish something, you have to publish the extension with an app. You cannot publish the extension only.
Yes.
Thank you.
So there's a lot of keyboard extensions on the App Store. If you open their app, all it does is link to the settings screen. Any other questions?
So your app is basically a whole new set of custom keys.
Mhm.
You get to maybe use the vanilla keyboard and extend on that as well?
The vanilla keyboard is actually more complex than it seems. So I think Apple is not going to allow extensions to that. I mean, the system keyboard is used for passwords or
So
more
even
complex.
if you want to make a normal keyboard and switch keys,
Mhm.
suggestions over, you have to make the
You need to implement the whole thing. Any other questions? very much.
Thanks a lot.